So I was saying, welcome everyone in the room, welcome everyone online. We're very happy to have a special guest with us today, joining us from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Ahmed Ali is going to share with us his work and the growth of his practice, award-winning practice in Dubai. To make a proper introduction, I'd like to invite Ceylan Hoca to join me on stage.
Okay, hello everybody. It's my honor and pleasure to present Mr. Ahmed Ali, a partner of X Architects from Dubai. X Architects is a critical architectural studio founded in 2003 by principal architects Ahmed Ali and Farid Ismail. Strong proponents of Arab culture and its translation to contemporary design, X Architects believes in design as a process. Their research builds into creating a built environment that is adaptive and contextual. For them, architecture is a language that speaks of the place. Their sensible yet critical design approach recognizes the inherent complexity in modern-day building and harnesses this complexity not to produce projects that are culturally robust, place-sensitive, and environmentally friendly. Today, one of the partners, as I said, is Ahmed Ali, who is an architect, researcher, and entrepreneur from the United Arab Emirates, is with us. Welcome again. Ahmed graduated from the American University of Sharjah with a degree in architecture, and he immediately established X Architects in 2003. Ahmed's research and design works are widely published and exhibited in renowned international publications and venues. He's a recurring critic and guest lecturer at various educational institutions, including ours, I guess, by today. In August 2019, Ahmed received the prestigious Ahan Award for Architecture for his design, together with his partner, Farid, for their design of the Wasit Natural Reserve Visitor Center in Sharjah, UAE. So we welcome Mr. Ahmed Ali. Thank you for joining us. So the floor is yours.
Let me say thank you one more time. This, by the way, is the second in the series of our, second and final of our Nature of Architecture lectures, having had Artem Piskunov yesterday with us, and we're very happy to continue with Mr. Ali. Thank you once again for joining us. Please, the floor is yours.
I think there's feedback.
Yes, sorry, I have a little bit of delay, by the way, in the connection. So I hope you can.
It may be to do with the screen recording. I'm going to switch to recording from a different computer, and hopefully it will improve.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you very much, really,
for inviting me today.
And I'm very happy to see
really a room full of young.
So maybe our connection.
X Architects.
I would like to share my screen.
I would like to share my screen.
All right. You see my screen?
You see my screen?
Yes. We do.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Always
when I start, of course, as a designer, start the process of design. Usually comes the question how I will start, what kind of design I would like to pursue in a specific place. What is really important to express and to come to life of form and shapes in architecture.
This question
maybe it sounds really simple, but it's
if you add to the complexity to it,
the places that we live in. For example, I live in Dubai, and as you know, Dubai is a fast-moving place. Its identity changing in a very quick matter, what is an identity of that modern, interesting, fast-growing city is very also elusive. The moment you are really fixate or fix yourself about a certain values or truth or certain ideas, these ideas usually shifts in a matter of few months, years, or so on, which makes, as a designer, it's very hard really to be able to set a direction, especially if you are interested in creating design that are pushing the edge or creating something new. So that's why sometimes I could really try as much as possible to relate to the place that I am building in, and try to gather as much possible data through the environment and through the place, which also these two factors influence all other things like social behaviors, like cultural issues, and so on. And take that as a point, actually, if not restriction, but to push really forward the design. I will illustrate in this presentation three designs or four designs actually, that it shows you the process of inspired by the context to generate a form and to create a new identity. When you think about where I come from, you usually think it's mainly a desert, and it's actually it's true to a certain extent, but also it's a very beautiful, diverse in its ecosystem, and in the scarcity, the word scarcity becomes very important. The intensity of natural elements or change in the environment, or like a different kind of geological or environmental, let's say natural assets, it becomes so intense in the desert. So I think this makes it really beautiful and a source of inspiration. I will share with you a project that I have also designed in 2005. It's a location between Sharjah and Ajman. So what you see in your left of the screen is Sharjah, and the right is Ajman. And this place is a very rare, beautiful salt flats, dunes that attracts a lot of migrant birds that migrated from the north to the south of the world, of the planet. So this is their landing zone. Sometimes they stay here for a couple of months. They lay eggs, they do breeding and all of that, and it's very beautiful, protected area. But unfortunately, because as you see, it's in the middle of the city, many of the contractors started to use this site as a dump for their construction waste and so forth. And all these wonderful lagoons used to be a place where all trash was there. And unfortunately, it took a lot of effort to bring the project, or to bring the, let me do that, to bring the project to its condition, or to its ultimate natural assets. Yeah. So what we did, actually, we started to put different strategies to tackle and how to conserve, but also rehabilitate the whole area. We started to create a wonderful buffer of trees to isolate it from, let's say, or create a kind of a clear boundary, and to stop the encroachment of developments and real estate developments. We have a lot of problems, especially in our part of the world, where the problem of overdevelopment is becoming really an issue. you see everywhere is being developed. It's been used as a real estate kind of developments. And it's really important to preserve and protect the natural assets that we have. In such a case in the desert is very rare, actually. So if it's gone forever. And that will affect the ecosystem, since the migrant birds comes here. Around 350 type of migrant bird comes and actually land in this zone and use it as a breeding and safe zone and relaxing zone for them. So we started to also plant almost between a tree to a shrub to 35,000 plants to heal the land. Started to restore the lagoons by taking also some kind of irrigation, naturally irrigated via the underground aquifer system, and bring life to the whole place. And as you see in the section here, we started to create these kind of gradients. Of course, when I say we, us and the team of experts, landscapers, geologists, and also people who are specialized in the bird behavior. So creating this kind of wonderful scaling down of the trees and creating that kind of a gentle protection for the birds to feel very safe and to be able to stay in the site and attract these birds again to the sites. What we did, we started to also think of how we could make people aware of this beautiful site. And it's not enough just to do that, but also to educate the people, the new generation, about the importance of such a unique natural assets that we have. So we suggested to create a wonderful facility that could create, becomes a place for scientists or people who would like to experiments, or bird lovers who would like to walk and also view the birds and examine the birds. And at the same time, we created a facility for breeding the birds and treating the birds, the injured birds and so forth, or any birds that are in danger, to rehabilitate and to increase. So we took the program and we started to really, as that diagram, previous diagram, that took the services, start to put it against the background, and almost bury the architecture, so it will not be imposing buildings and could be something very gentle on the land. At the same time, that has give us a beautiful opportunity to pierce through this wonderful site and walk and see beautiful galleries from the two sides. So again, as you see here, the boundary has been set very, very strongly. So as you see in the bottom image, you see the developments is really encroaching, was really encroaching into the. So we decided to build actually close to the places that has already been damaged. And we thought that this is an opportunity to rehabilitate it also and be able to limit the access of people at least to the beginning of the site and leave the rest for nature, but also educate people while they are in the facilities about the whole area and the importance of salt flats. Again, the design, I will explain the design. From the parking, we thought it will be interesting if you can really submerge yourself into the land and be able to enter into this wonderful world of birds. But as you see in the section here, we started to create a very thin profile and submerge the building a bit also and create that kind of a tent structure that allows us to free the birds in the larger, let's say, cage. So while you are walking, so you are the one who are somehow caged in between the birds and you could view them. And that could be used, of course, in AC areas since it's very hot in our region. So even in the summer, you could use this facility, and you are the one who will be in almost controlled environment, and the bird will be in its natural environment. So you see the image here. This is after rehabilitation of the areas. You see the plants are growing. It's been integrated with the architecture as a kind of a camouflage kind of technique, and it's really beautiful because many of the birds in the surrounding cities, they usually come on the sunset and come and nest or sleep in this area. This is the section. As you see, it's really coming slowly into the ground in a very gentle way. And then you have the two galleries opening using the topography to the two sides of the building. This is an aerial view just to also clarify it. What we did also, we have produced this continuous seamless glass gallery, and we tilted the glass 5 degrees to be able to reflect the ground, so the birds will not really fly into the glass. And this is a common problem when you have modern buildings where you see all of a sudden the bird think it's a continuous space, so it usually pumped to the glass. So this is actually a small detail. That's the tiltation of the glass in the section here, and created a darker room behind, so the reflection will be stronger, so the bird can see itself and could be also running away from, and could see the ground actually because it's tiltation. So that is also give us this kind of, this is a picture in the place, we're saying lagoon birds. Here where we have this wonderful scenery and free kind of birds in the lagoons, and we see flamingos. These are real flamingos. They come, they are very free. They are not caged, by the way. So they are, but because of the food, because of the safety and so forth, they are staying in the place here and not leaving. These are school children with their teacher coming to learn more about birds. Again, we started to bring the ground, by the way, up, or the other way around. Actually, we sunk the walking areas. So the children have an eye level, almost an eye level, and a relaxed level with the birds. So they could really see them very close to the gallery. And it's a nice feeling because you could feel the ground coming really. Yeah, I think in 2019 we have took the Aga Khan Award for that project. Another project was another context, which is the Shandaga area where we this beautiful vernacular architecture has developed around the seaside, the creek side. And the client came to us and said, okay, we want to do something for Expo 2020, and we want to create one of the pavilions outside the Expo zone to receive people and to create a kind of, make them aware of the traditional area. So what we did, we thought, okay, it's wonderful. Let's look at the history of this place and the materials that have been used in the place, and apparently, and what people used to do in that place. And apparently that people used to be using a kind of a good craft in carpentry and woodwork by building ships and creating also this parasti homes. We call it arish. Arish is like a continuous roof structure made out of palm reeds. And we thought that people used to be very skilled with wood, and this is really interesting. They used to bring the wood, whether from the reeds or palm reeds on the surrounding oasis, or they used to bring also teak wood from India and start to create ships with it. So we thought that, oh, that's interesting. Instead of really doing a modern building, we could really, there is a beautiful plaza where they want to us build this heavy kind of programs. And we said, all right, what about we create something that is very light, but also remind people, or it comes like in its let's say form and its meaning, reminds people of the craft that is being used in this area and the type of architecture that's being used in this area, not in a literal sense, but in a maybe a creative and indirect way. So we thought of really building a wonderful roof made out of teak wood and create to remember the crafts that's been done in this area, but also arrange it in a way that could resemble the Arish and create that kind of wonderful imperfection between one piece and another and allow beautiful shade and shadow to cast on the ground. And to control that environmentally, we started to think about a simple enclosure that can be folded and unfolded in the plaza, and that could areas spill into the plaza, but in the winter time, a good time like now, November, December, and so forth. But in the time of the extreme heats, August and so forth, July, we could really enclose it and create a kind of enclosed AC space. So this is the plan, very simple. We intentionally kept it an open floor plan, so it does not disturb really the surrounding mud buildings. For the services, of course, every building has tremendous amount of services for AC, for electrical, and so forth. In our case, in our region, usually the AC and the ducting for the AC takes a huge amount of space in the roof. And if you want to really have a nice, interesting roof that allows light to penetrate and create that kind of shade and shadow condition, you need to free the architecture, let's say, as much as possible from these kind of mechanical. So we started to say, what about we create this kind of a tunnel that is enough to service this AC and electrical wiring and all of that, and keep the plaza really open. And that gave us a nice, wonderful opportunity to create a wonderful continuous roof inside, outside. This is our building. If you see it in the left side, in the beginning, is blending really nicely, even from the top with the aggregates of the buildings. Again, you see it in the middle there. Also, as a gesture, it's just a simple blade-like roof made out of teak wood. And then the glass that usually it gets folded in the good weather. The reflection of this beautiful glass when it's been closed reflects the surrounding in a very gentle way. And then you see it from the corners of the traditional architecture is something that is working with a scale of around 5.5 meters. So the scale of the architecture has been considered very calmly, and also then create that kind of condition of an open, wonderful plaza. You fold each one of these doors is wonderfully revolved. It's a 4 meter height door, and create that kind of condition of openness. As I said, even the teak wood has been put in. We started also enjoy not to be perfect in terms of placement of these woods, because sometimes it reminds me of this kind of palm reeds construction Arish. The interesting thing is that sometimes at certain angles you can see the structure even be on top of it, that allowing it to suspend it and allow it to create this wonderful silhouette of the structure and the modern and the old. There's the dialogue between the two buildings. the surrounding buildings and our building. Again, this is an interior shot from the interior. As you see, even the colors we have taken, that is a beautiful polished concrete we have used here. And as you see, the AC grills is really moving, created by also the same precast concrete, toning it to the same level and color of the surrounding muds. And you see how the wood is really also taking that kind of tone, which is adding to it, is not really an aggressive. And we painted the steel and the aluminum frames of the windows black, so it can stays in a wonderful dialogue with the surroundings. These are some images. Sometimes, you know, when you open it, it becomes really wonderful. It's just a covered plaza. And this is the kind of success of that project. Again, in the surroundings, also, we were responsible of turning some of the traditional houses into museums. So one is a museum of perfume, traditional perfumes, and one of them is a museum of urban planning. So we started to take each building, started to understand its potential and how you can reuse the project and in a modern functions. Again, there is a limitation to what you can do, but you can deal with it in a respectful way and empower some of the spaces, express also some of the architectural elements around it. Use also the interpretive, working very closely with the graphic designers and interpretive and storytelling to create a space and empower the space that we are looking for. So as you see here, for this is a real image. We kept the wood, we kept the materials of the interior, some of the functions and rooms. We started to introduce these wonderful roofs, especially the ones that are collapsed, and create a new language, but also reminders of the old one. And these are some of the exhibitions we have successfully achieved. I'll just run through it. As you see, the walls is being respected, the roofs is being rehabilitated, conserved, like we conserve it. And that kind of a restoration done in a way that still let's respect its essence, but also integrates. We see what we can really remove and what we can actually add, and in a sensible way should really talk to each other. As you see the floor here, for example, done by concrete, see the lightings done in a respectful way and does not harm this language that is already exists on the site. Again, that's another building with also another challenges, turning some of the spaces into a usable modern gallery. All right. Another projects, again, I'm shifting from a kind of different context and how we are dealing with the context to our advantage. So here, as you see where it's written site in yellow, this is in Al Ain. Al Ain is a city between UAE and Oman currently, and Al Ain is an oasis city. So it used to live on fallages, aflaj. Fallaj means is a waterway. It's a wonderful water system that is used for irrigating the palms and all of that. And some of the wonderful, let's say, network of oases of the irrigations. It's really wonderful because it brings water and to all the city and creates also a wonderful agricultural atmosphere. So that site used to be, as you see here in the darker yellow, It's our site where it's in the edge of the oasis, but here it was in the beginning of modernization in the 60s, where they started to build the infrastructure and started to destroy the oasis and creating modern roads. And unfortunately, many of these wonderful spaces is gone forever. Having said that, that house has been neglected for a long, long period of time. It's a house built on the 60s and built over time, and not built in the traditional form. Actually is an imported form from India and the coastal of Zanzibar. And you can see a lot of this kind of arcaded, wonderful arched palaces. So having said that, it's a very important part of the history in UAE since the modern history. And it's built by concrete. And we thought it's an interesting idea because it's built by concrete, but it's also around a courtyard, which is also resemble a kind of a social form of architecture. And it's been imported from India. So that means there is also a history of culture of dealing with trade and all of that. And we thought it's very important to keep that house for the legacy of UAE and its multicultural, let's say, connections to the region. So we started to document with the team of conservation and heritage people, and started to see the phases that the house has been built from the 57, and it's built over time, built with different kind of methods. And every time the client was expanding it. And we thought this is interesting because it's a part of the history of the design itself. So Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Palace, this is the condition it was. Unfortunately, the roofs has been collapsed, and some rooms has been also, most of the rooms roofs have been collapsed. Some walls has been also collapsing. So we thought it would be interesting if we could, and if you see the smaller images there, this is the condition the site was. These are some images too. It was in a very pretty bad shape and required conservation big time, and also rehabilitation of the program. So we started to categorize the beauty of the place, the material, the color that is being used. And it's wonderful because wonderful palettes of materials has been used. A wonderful palettes of geometries has been used. And there is these colors that are really striking, like a blue, sky blue color, or sometimes like a light green color. And pink has been used in some of the rooms. And we thought it's something to really keep in that kind of heritage of the building. Yet the doors, for example, if you see the wedding doors, is done in a completely traditional way, you know. So we started to conserve, so minimize the work of the areas that we are having and destruction. We started to conserve some of the decoration and elements, repair some of the things that has been damaged, like the frame in this case here. Started to repair it and to replace it in the way that, or repair it in a way that it was originally designed. But then we come to places that we cannot also repair, but also replace. And this degree of a strategy that we have used. And we started to replace some of the elements. Any elements that is required to replace, we started to either choose to do it the way it was, or they have the freedom to reinstate it and do something modern and something interesting. but yet sensible to the place. And then there's the new interventions. We wanted to make it a modern facility, so we suggested to create actually an extension too for the development. So for it to survive, for it to have a new life, for it is to be valid too. So here is the materials that was also existing on the site. Looking at it case by case, as you see, it's a lot of materials from earth, masonries, concrete, wooden beams and roofs, wooden doors, concrete blocks, and so on. Of course, these kind of strategies have been also reflected as a diagram in the strategies and in the spatial strategy. Again, these are some of the elevations of the existing strategy. We started to also learn from the proportion of it, the arcade proportions, and so on, and this helped us also in designing the new structure. This idea of a modular repetition and this idea of layered spaces of arcade and circulation and then the main space to create shade and to create a kind of sense of privacy is something we learned in our formation of the new architecture. We started to design the whole thing, reinstate again the courtyard in the middle, started to somehow softly bring that arrangement of the courtyard into the architecture. But also, if you see in the left side, we have produced that building that enclosed the courtyard again. And instead of rebuilding the wall the way it is, we started to make a building there that could really use as a attractor to this area, but yet sit in harmony with the whole thing. Again, respecting the scale, as you see, the block D is really taking that modulation of 2 meter and this idea of the layered arcade, the scale of the first floor, and connecting almost the courtyard in the position. Again, here you see some also inspiration of this kind of mashrabiya skin kind of treatment of the second layer, and how the section, if you see, is creating that kind of a space into another space to create an environmental controlled areas, but also that kind of a spatial quality that exists in the site itself. These are the finished pictures. As you see, the colors has been restored. These are the original colors of the buildings. The block D on the side has been taking the scale of that building. This is the internal courtyard. We used, by the way, a new method of compacted sand to give this feeling of sand. We didn't want to create a landscape that is very heavy. So compacted sand was a nice solution to maintain the quality of the space, how it was before. These are some of the pictures. As you can see, the colors of the blue, of the red, or the green and yellow. And I think it's wonderful. We had a lot of arguments whether we want to really use the initial colors or the used colors that is there. Some people thought it won't be nice with all of these kind of colors, but I think it's original, it's nice, it's wonderful. If you tell me to design this one from scratch, I will not do this color. I will not dare to use these colors, you know. But I think the final result is wonderful. Again, when it comes to the new interventions, the wall, we started to create this thin blade of steels in a light color and shading some of these corridors and bringing this arcade thinking into into our modern interpretation. It's very serial with the sun shadow and so forth. It's really interesting. Here, as you see in the room, for example, the room was completely destroyed in this case, and we wanted to reinstate the roof and introduce a new material. So we kept the original roof and so on, but then we added this layer that you can see it in kind of translucency. And it worked very well because there are a lot of kind of for the lighting, AC and all of that. It took a wonderful minimalization for the whole thing. Our interpretive design also worked. We worked together to create some kind of exhibition space in the middle of these rooms. As you can see here, for example, the frames is being repaired. The roof has been reinstated, a new interpretation for it. The floor is being completely a new intervention, and so on. But it works in harmony together. One of the room, it has archaeology, so we made a glass floor. This is the project at night. This is the new block. Still, it was not finished yet when we took this photo. Now it's finished with this wonderful open and close skin. Yeah, maybe it's time for new photos. All right, the third project and the final project that I want to show today. See, as an architect, you don't have a control over what comes to you, you know. At the end of the day, you are not an artist. Maybe as a researcher, you can do that and you pick something and you can do an academic, for example, or as a researcher. But as a practice, you just receive things, you know, and you start to then think about how could I deal with this kind of realistic project, realistic client, budget, and site. But sometimes, you know, crazy things happens, you know. Sometimes somebody comes to you and he said, you know, I want to build that building or that resort in the empty quarter. And the empty quarter was for a long time in Saudi Arabia. It's inaccessible, uninhabitable piece of the desert. It has a huge sanded dunes, sometimes up to 200, 250 meters, and no water. And it's like when you stand in certain, I'll show you some of the images, but there's this sense of vastness, you know, this is a vast, wonderful area. And it's called empty quarter, but as you see the image below there, the image is really, when you stand above one of the dunes, you will see a sea of sand, an endless sea of sand. And when you come to this, you said, okay, if you want to design something here, so how you could really do, there is no heritage in this architecture heritage in this area. There is this wonderful kind of vast area. We started to refer to what is existing. You have the dunes, some variety of the dunes, you have the sky, and all of a sudden, the minimal, wonderful, subtle changes, if even the light color or the light angle of the sun, it changes the whole atmosphere. So you can have a drastically different immersive experience from the sunrise or the noontime or even the sunset. Or at night, of course, is another world. The whole stars start to appear and you can see the clear kind of sky with all the stars because there is no pollution of light pollution. So we said, oh, okay, that's wonderful, you know, and maybe this is the assets. I mean, if you want to build in the middle of nowhere, maybe this is the place it's very few places in the whole planet Earth that is not being inhabited or being even experienced. And maybe a small intervention to create an experience there will be wonderful, because it's unmatched. You can't really experience such an emptiness and direct friction between you and a harsh nature. So we started to really create this catalog. So we noticed also there is a salt in this area as a result of a water table, high water table that, but it's very salty water, created that kind of condition and no plants. There is a few very surviving plants which are really interesting in shapes. And we thought maybe we as an architects maybe learn from also artists, when sometimes like this image you have in the left there, or you have our job is maybe sometimes all of a sudden to reorganize something that is chaotic, and all of a sudden you see a human intervention. Here in the artist organized the leaves according to their intensity of color, and all of a sudden it's not nature, but it's made out of nature and made out of the surroundings. So I said that is very interesting. Even the cube that is made out of nature, made out of surroundings, but it's done in a different way. And we said, all right, maybe this idea of placement, of creating a constellation of experiences will be a wonderful, rather than starting to create an architecture there. So when you have the freedom of such a vast area, then how you choose? Then we started to make that wonderful dialogue. I said, okay, there's the program, the activity, the experience, and they created a set of, let's say, parameters as a rational parameters. Where is the best place to see the sky? Where is the best has the wonderful view? Where are the nicest location where it have a high points and so on. And that dial helped us to rationalize some of the sites that we chose between the second and the sixth and the seventh sabkh, as we call, for the ultimate kind of program use, but also for the different experiences. So we started to say, all right, maybe the inspiration will be using this wonderful, abundant material, which is sand. When you walk in the desert, you leave usually footprint, your footprint becomes very obvious. It's very minimal, but it's very obvious. And we thought it's an interesting concept, this athar, that you leave just like almost a bulge in the sand or in the material. And that could also create a frame or a space that we could use, as you see in the section here below, that we used one of this wonderful topography to create these kind of bulges, to create that kind of spaces within that. And from the same material, you started to just organize it and just try to push this kind of space. And that give us the ability to create a microclimatic. We worked with the engineers. You create that kind of a condition that is the humidity is being increased in that areas, and you could create a kind of a microclimatic condition because of the shade and the humidity level. So that is allow us also to create an architecture that has been suspended in between this kind of move. And that one becomes a space of privacy, leisure, and so on. So we started to use this spaces. And as you see, this is a kind of a very minimum interventions on the overall. We thought also the water that has been generated that could be used from the underground and maybe being used in a way that could be turned to a sweet water and use it to rehabilitate some of the landscape, or to use it for a kind of a landscape pleasure. some of the ideas we had also to learn from the nature itself of some of the existing plants there, and how you could, this plant is it's a wonderful plant that shades itself and create these layers. So the flower in this case, or blossoming, is used to protect the main core where all the water is. And it gives it this wonderful vertical shape and this layering shape. And we thought it's really interesting that maybe when you think about building in the desert, you usually think of building from the ground, from earth, like the first proposal. I said, what about thinking outside the box, but also learning? Usually when you have a defense architecture, you usually go vertical, so you can view the maximum kind of land, and see the enemies from far away, and also defend yourself against that enemy. So as you say, it's interesting that not necessarily from the same area architecture, but nearby cities where they have this wonderful pumping out towers as a watchtower. So it would be wonderful to use that kind of techniques and turn this plant into a wonderful inspiration to create a vertical unit, and to create a unit that can view and experience that vastness of the repetition of sand, and appears like a growing from the site itself, appears like a growing from the plant itself. And maximize your views and use this idea of layering to protect itself and create privacy, viewing, and all of that. So that's why it's created this double skin, one skin protected from the harsh environment, but also flexible to open, and you open for the views and for the air and all of that. And we started to organize it around the dunes, and it became okay. It looks really something not alien to the whole thing. It works really interesting with the surroundings. Yes, it's bizarre, like or strange, like the flower, that all of a sudden you see this vertical flower in the middle of the desert. So, but it's wonderful, and allows you to experience the place in a different way. So this is where we used one of the arcs that's been created by the dunes, and we built on it, and we have this maximum wonderful view at night. Viewing nothingness, you're viewing nothing, actually, emptiness. Also, we decided that the most beautiful place is the roof. So we created that kind of reflecting tissue of water that reflects the sky at night, and you could be submerging yourself. Imagine that pool at night. It's wonderful. Just reflect the whole sky, But also during the day, you can see that horizon. That's an actual view, by the way. Actual, I mean, taking an actual height of view and then redo the design to it. Even between the skin and the room, we started to say, okay, what about we produce this kind of net that allow us to go and enjoy in a different way. Again, learning from the patterns that exist on the dunes, we started to make the main hall and create that kind of shape that is being zigzagged in a way to create the main grand room. So this is the place where all the people gathered. And we thought it would be interesting to put that glass and to gather sand, actually, by time. So this courtyards or budgets will be filled by time with sand. And resorts needs sometimes at places like spa and gym and so forth. So the spa is also, we thought it would be interesting to inspire by the materials that exist there, in this case, salt. Salt also has a healing properties and used a lot as a treatment. So we thought maybe that could be also a material. So we started to create a salt park. So we used this material in a way and create above ground almost a floating pools and a park. When I say park, is by condensing this whole materials into a specific square. You will highlight, all of a sudden you see a white square from the same materials already exist as a salt, but in an intensive way, and it becomes really obvious all of a sudden. And then all the treatments will be buried or underground. So the result became this. And as you see here, how the water are, how everything is being arranged. With these walls, but underground is darker and have the complete contrast for that, which I think it's interesting in the desert to have this complete contrast. We started to also think about an overall sustainability diagram of how we could really create a kind of an overall kind of system that we utilize and use every resource and material that we are using back into the circle of use to achieve the efficiency and the maximum efficiency of using energy. Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes. Thank you very much. Fantastic work. I think we have the time. We have 15 minutes for a few questions. There's one already from the back of the room, if you don't mind. Remember to introduce yourselves, everyone.
Hi, I'm Mehmet. Can you hear me well?
With your surname.
Mehmet.
Can you hear me?
Well, I don't, I hear a lot of echoes. So if somebody could, yeah, a lot of echoes.
It's probably because of the volume here. Let me try to resolve that. Is this any better?
Yeah, it is better now, yeah.
Okay.
You can talk.
Okay, hi, I'm Mehmet Çılık, and I have a question about the Natural Reserve Visitor Center. It's an almost transparent structure and also allowing to watching the main species around it, but it has a very glass density design. And your climate, your region climate is very hot and humid. Why did you choose such a glass density design in this area? And what is your final thoughts about this building was built?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. See, it's a good point. See, you have to know, in our environment especially, you have to know two things. The orientation is very important. So sometimes, very simple, right orientation, if you create a vertical shade, can solve the whole problem. The whole glass is being shaded, you know what I mean? Talking about a horizontal shade, but sometimes also a vertical shade. You could do that. And but again, having said that, this is a program that needed to be connected to the cages and needed to be, let's say, transparent. So if you noticed in all our designs, we started to put some of the shadings also in the cages outside the architecture to reduce also the heat to come. So it's not necessarily on the building itself, but even in the cages itself. And then we have a minimal kind of a roof that also reduce a direct sun entry. We have a high standard too of glass manufacturing in this region, by the way. okay, we have a lot of sun, but people love to use glass for a weird reason. So sometimes the efficiency of this glass, the treatment of it, the U value, double glazed, it's all being used as a material technology to ensure the area is being, let's say, environmentally comfortable. Yeah. So, I mean, using this technique and that technique to our advantage to create that kind of facade that is connected for the purpose of the program and not allowing like a smaller windows because you want a view, you want to be connected to that kind of panorama. Uh, Also, we have another technique we used. We have sunk in the building a bit, like to reduce the glass, let's say, opening. So the glass was 2 point. Yes, it's all around the whole area, but it's been also been a little reduced. So it's like a strip of the glass goes all the way. So these multiple strategies that we have used. Yeah. For me also, this is a question that is, we live, yes, in a hot environment, but we live also in Dubai. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dubai. Lots of skyscrapers, a use of glass. It's a modern city, and the look and feel and the aesthetics that is there. It's a bit like a very modern. So yes, uh, you need to use something very contemporary, but also be careful of these orientations, the material properties, use the also technology to be able to make a comfort zone within the space. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, let's have a lady. Then maybe you can come here. It's going to be easier. Oh, are you able to hear from there?
No, actually, I can't hear from there.
So you can come and speak from here. I think the speakers are here.
So my question is about general. So what is the main difficulty about during the work on the desert or such a sandy places? Is it how is the working the structure process?
For which project?
In general.
So your question, the structure challenges in these projects?
Yes.
She actually mentions as a general approach to your project, since you're building in this very specific climate.
Sure. No,
How do you decide on the structure?
Yes.
Sure. No, it's a clear question. Thank you. See, I usually also, to add to the complication, usually also our design, we use a lot of cantilevers, big spans, and open spaces, which adds also to the challenge of the structure. Usually we get good structure engineers that are known worldwide to be able to solve the structural problems. That it comes from two things, from the environment and the surroundings, but also from the design itself. So I will give you an example. In the wetland project, by the way, it's a wetland. So the moment you dig even maybe half a meter, you will have water. So we had a problem to create a suitable foundation. So we have used the technique of tanking the whole foundation. Tanking is using a kind of complete isolation of the foundation submerged into the water. So this is, of course, comes after doing the analysis of the water of the site itself and do the soil analysis in laboratories, comes with data, give recommendation from the structure engineers to deal with such a situation in a careful way. So it is something that we usually like as a designer to integrate from the beginning. So I usually don't like neither the structure nor the mechanical nor any technical issue to make a limitation for my design, but to improve it and use these layers of complexity and technical realities to make the project more beautiful. Maybe I will say it in a very simple sentence that if the technical issues, whatever it is, the structure, the mechanical, or whatever it is, if the technical questions makes your design less beautiful or big challenges, I think maybe you are doing something wrong. You have to use these opportunities to make it more beautiful. So challenges and because we as an architects, we are not artists. Always remember that. We have an ambition, yes, we want to do, but we are not artists. We work with budget, we work with the restriction of clients and all of that. And so we deal with reality to make something beautiful. So whatever is this reality, you should welcome it with its hardship, you know. So structure, but again, for example, in the structure relating to that question, you should get good creative people with you as a structure engineer, as a structure mechanical engineer, that will be able like to, let's say, dance with you in terms of design, you know. You give them something, they would say, okay, maybe this is not possible this way, it's possible that way, but we can look into it. Then you adjust yourself, you see what's suitable, and you negotiate to create, both of you as a good designer, as good structure engineer designer, good architect design, to make something beautiful. So yes, it is challenging, but this is how we usually do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess we have time for one or two more questions.
Yes, we need you to come up here. But you didn't introduce yourself, the previous student. Now, please introduce. You said your name. Okay, sorry. Then you introduce yourself first.
Hello, my name is Nisana Gökbulak. And first of all, thank you for your presentation. And my question is about your first project. And you mentioned that the area you worked was very special. And what I mean is the area is a perfect habitat for the birds and vegetation is so rich. So while you're designing, you need to preserve and protect nature in there. And integrate the architecture to the site, most importantly. So have you achieved to protect everything on the site, or have you caused any changes, or are you forced by nature to change your design?
Can somebody rephrase it, because it wasn't really clear, or somebody say it again with a clearer mic?
Basically, I think what she's trying to say is like, okay, in visitor center, your approach was not to touch the nature or touch it as minimum as possible. But in the end, did you achieve this goal, or was the nature kind of affected?
Yeah. No, it's clear. Look. If you wanna build, you have to destroy. That's a fact. Yeah, and it's unfortunate fact, but any place you want to go and build, you want to build a new city, you want to build a new tower, if it's not existing cities, or you want to go towards new areas, you have to destroy to a certain level. But that doesn't mean that you have not to be sensible and be able to, as much as possible, be let's say careful about what you are doing, and not to make the situation even worse, you know, but to empower. So for example, in a very high level, yes, we have maybe by doing a center there, we will need to be built in a place, we need to destroy something. Yeah, but then we measure it that we also we could minimize that destruction. So we chose a place that is already being touched in the site. So that's very important. So that place was being already touched by bulldozers and so forth. I said, okay, and we put it near the entrance so it doesn't be on the lagoon sides. That's a second thing. So try as much as possible to minimize that. But having said that, what we have built also to empower the nature, it's also beyond the value of it is very amazing. People became more aware of the let's say the environment and all of that. So I don't mind by doing a little bit of, let's say, and not to become always, let's say, utopian, you know. You build a little bit, you disturb a little bit, but to empower too. It's almost like became a power engine for the overall development, yeah, and became a place where you go there to get educated, to preserve also the natural environment and so on. So usually this is what we think. Yani it's a balance that we have to live with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
Somebody else? Oh.
I'm not calling.
Okay, one more. Okay, yes, you don't. Okay. Yes, please come up. Quickly.
So, hi, I'm Ecem Nazlıva. I said that you had lots of projects with different topography levels, and there's a site that I'm trying to design, but I have difficulties because of the topography of this place. So what do you think I should pay attention the most when starting the designing process?
So in terms of topography,
yes,
when students are starting to design, can you give them advice in terms of how to integrate their design ideas with the topography and how to start that as a design idea?
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. See, I would suggest that before you make up your mind, you do a series of maybe investigations. One has to do with the physical properties of the topography itself, and what is it, how is it, what's the steep. Second thing is also separately, but not even making a design decision now, what you are building, what kind of a program you are building, yeah, for what, what's the purpose of that. So this also an interesting kind of a research part of it. Of course, the environment, is it hot, is it snowy, is it, I don't know, green, is it grass, or is it dunes? Also, that is a way to a third element of consideration. And you keep adding maybe some of these kind of separate studies as a design input. And then you suggest, I think as a creative process, usually I let myself really into these things. Sometimes one of the parameters, either they could nicely join together and we could create something as an opportunities of something new, or one of them dominate. Maybe sometimes is the site dominate or the form dominate, or sometimes the program dominate, you know. If you are building, for example, a mosque in a topographic area, it's a completely different than building, for example, I don't know, a showroom, car showroom in a topographic area, yeah? So maybe then you use the topography in the mosque in a spiritual way, as a spiritual journey, yes. But in the showroom, maybe you use the topography in a way to reveal the beauty of the cars or creating that kind of sense of philosophy. So I would first use this non-action, studying, absorbing, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then understanding all these wonderful kind of parts of the ambition you want to do, and then see what's really proper or what can be joined together, and what element can be used to support the other element. Yeah, I hope I'm clear. You know, sometimes design issues is very difficult to to explain. No, you need to draw.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much. I think that this has been enlightening for all of us. Congratulations on a fantastic body of work, Arkadaşlar. If you would help me to thank. If you permit one final question for me, it's a personal one though. I wonder if you might know my friend Gregor Weiss. I think maybe you were at AUS in the same time.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Do you know Gregor?
Gregor Wise, yes, of course.
Yes, he's a good friend of mine.
Mentor. He was my mentor, one of my mentors, yes.
We taught together here for many years, Gregor and I.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yes. If you like, I can tell him you said hi.
Yeah, please do that. He will be happy. I mean, I hope so.
I think so, yes. Thanks.
Another class joining us, Emre Hoca's class.
Yes, thank you also to Emre Hocam and his class for joining us.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wait,